Hello everybody, this is Rabbit Waffles, and I'm going to be reviewing every single Nightmare on Elm Street movie in order. Nightmare on Elm Street is a movie about a man with knives for fingers who haunts kids' nightmares, and if he kills them in their dreams, they die in real life. In this movie, I only remember one of the characters' names other than Freddy Krueger, of course, and that's Nancy, the main character. There's also a character played by Johnny Depp, who I guess you could say is the love interest. There's also Nancy's father, who is a cop. I don't know who he's played by. Nancy's friends are all having the same nightmares as her about a guy with knives for fingers, and one of her friends dies, so she basically, I guess, goes crazy, well, everyone thinks she goes crazy, and they won't believe her that there's a killer after her in her dreams, especially her mom. And her mom keeps on hiding things from her, and Nancy finds out more and more about what's going on, and it's really got this big thing about parents don't believe you. That message is used a lot in scary movies, is that, like, everyone will think you're crazy and won't believe what you're saying. Like, this happens every episode of Goosebumps, and it's come to the point where it's kind of a cliche in that show. And Nancy is just looking for help, and she even sets up booby traps to stop Freddy Krueger in one scene that I thought was just ridiculous, and I loved it. There's lots of cool death scenes in this movie. Like, there's the part where Johnny Depp gets pulled into his bed, and then blood splashes everywhere out of the bed, and it looks insane. There's also the part where the mom gets pulled in through her window into the door, and there's the one where the mother dies by getting burned. She dies twice in the movie, which is great. And there's also the one where a guy, everyone thinks he hanged himself, but Freddy Krueger actually hanged him in his dreams with his sheet from his bed. Honestly, I don't really like the way Freddy Krueger looked in this movie. He just looked like a wrinkled old man to me. They really made him look a lot cooler in the future movies, I think. Then there's Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddys Revenge, where Freddy Krueger needs to take over her body, and he finds a very 80s, obviously homosexual in denial boy that he wants to take over to kill people for some reason. It's sort of like a possession, kinda, not really though. The boy has a love interest who surprisingly isn't another boy. He's gotta save. She's the one that saves him in the end, and she helps him not be possessed by Freddy Krueger, I guess. It doesn't work in the end because every scary movie has to have the twist at the end where everything goes wrong. A lot of people didn't like this movie. I thought it was good. I know most people probably hated it. I don't really think there are any bad Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I think people are a little too harsh on this. I wouldn't say this one is the worst one. It's the most 80s, though, definitely. Every 2 seconds, they just keep reminding you that this movie was made in the 80s. I prefer the way Freddy Krueger looks in this movie over the way he looked in the first one. In this one, he kind of looks like a melted pizza. Like, his face really does look like it's burnt in this one. He doesn't just look like a wrinkled old man like he did in the first one. His face, like, looks greasy and melted, and looks like he's got pepperonis on it. Like, his face is literally a pizza. It's weird. After 2, there's obviously 3, which is probably my favorite out of the series. This is when people figure out that they can actually do whatever they want in their dreams. They could sort of be their own thing. They can have their own powers, and they use those powers against Freddy Krueger to try to defend themselves. There's this girl who can actually pull people into her dreams to help her. It's weird, and it sort of really makes a lot more possibilities for future movies, which is great. It's got a good cast. It's got a lot of interesting characters. It brought Nancy back. It's just a good movie. There was a lot of good deaths in this one. Like, this girl who used to be on heroin, she gets killed with heroin needles that Freddy Krueger has for fingers. It was weird, and it was also weird. There was this girl who gets her head smashed to the TV, and that's what Freddy Krueger says, welcome to prime time, or something autistic like that. In this movie, Freddy Krueger also looks pretty good. He doesn't look like a melted pizza, and he also doesn't look like a wrinkled old man. He looks like some sort of something in the middle, because they didn't try to go overboard, and they didn't try to go like too underboard with it. He looks good. He doesn't look like my grandpa in this one. There's also pretty much every character that survived after the first movie is pretty much dead in this one. Like, they all die. Just a couple of the new kids survive, and you see them in the next one. And spoiler, in the next one, they just all freaking die like right in the beginning of the movie. It's not much of a spoiler because it happens like right in the beginning of the movie. So I don't think I'm spoiling anything that much. Then there's number 4, which is if the second one was the most 80s, this one's the most 90s. I think this one came out in the early 90s. It really does feel like an early 90s low budget movie. Like, this is kind of stuff you'd see like on TV, like a straight to TV movie. It made for TV movie, I mean. But this one, it's really early 90s. Like, the second one's really 80s. The characters are really good in this movie. This is like the third one where they had really good characters. They killed off like half the people that survived in the last one, like I said before. But the new characters are okay. They're not. You don't get too attached to them, so you hope they don't die. You just, like, when they do die, you go, "Aw, well, I kind of wanted that character to live. Oh, well." Like, that's perfect for a scary movie, because you don't want to feel too sad, because it is supposed to be scary, and you don't want to be too happy about the deaths, because you're still supposed to find them scary, so it's a good thing to feel, I think. This is the 5th one. It's not particularly any good. It does explain a lot about Freddys Mom, and the deaths are just weird. They're, like, really entertaining to watch, but, like, not really that gory. They just freaking look weird. I suggest watching it just for how weird this one is. I mean, even Freddy dies in a really weird way. It's just such a weird movie. The deaths are just the perfect. You gotta watch it. Like, I felt like Freddy was kind of being a little nice to the comic book guy, because the comic guy was talking about how he doesn't like blood, and he really likes comics. Freddy Krueger kills him in a comic, and there's no blood. So I think that's like Freddy Krueger was being a little too nice to him there, because that's probably how he would wanted to die. But so I guess Freddy Krueger was just sort of, I don't know. It was weird. The movie was weird. It was weird, just weird, all weird, little weird. I don't know. It was pretty weird. I think it was weird. You guys think it was weird? It was weird. Really, really weird. Just weird. Weird. Then there was Freddys Dead, the final chapter. My throat hurts now. But in this one, Freddy dies. I mean, in the sequels, he does come back, but I guess the 2 of those sequels aren't really canon, and one of the sequels was a crossover, so they're not true sequels, I guess. So I guess you could say this was the last one. This one was different, I guess. It just tried to be funny. It didn't really try to be scary at all. Like, it was not at all scary. I'm kind of disappointed. They didn't try at all to make it anything horrific. It just tried to be goofy, so I don't want to talk about it that much. Then there's Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which doesn't actually have Freddy Krueger in it. It has a demon taking the form of Freddy Krueger, haunting the actress who played as Nancy in the 1 and 3. He uses her kid to scare her, and her kid's like always having nightmares and always sees him, and then when she starts seeing him, it's just scary, I guess. The movie wasn't that great. It was kind of boring, but I guess some people might like it if you're into story. But in a Freddy Krueger movie, I don't really care about story, and this isn't a Freddy Krueger movie, so I guess it's not really for me. Then there's Freddy vs. Jason, which I've already talked about on my I review every Jason movie list. Uh, this movie was good. Not great. I mean, it's more of a Freddy Krueger movie than it is a Jason movie. Uh, I think that's what I said in the Jason video. It's good, but it could have been better. I mean, this is supposed to be like an epic fight between two of the biggest horror icons. It could have done better. The gore is good, though. The lighting is just awful, though. Like, I hate the lighting in this movie. It's really unpleasant to just see the lighting in it. Like, they use a lot of yellow and blue lights. Like half of people's faces will be shadowed, and then the other half will be lighted. And it'll just look weird to me. I don't like it. Freddy Krueger, in the beginning of the movie, he has, like, these cool blue or red eyes, and he has big sharp teeth, and I wish he looked like that throughout the entire movie, but for some reason they made him look like how he did in the other movies after that. When I thought that the way he looked in the beginning was great, I really wish they just kept the way he looked, because it was a new cool look for him, and I like seeing new looks. That's why I like the Jason movies, because Jason's always changing the way he looks, and he always looks great. But Freddy Krueger just goes back to his boring self after the beginning. There's a lot of unique deaths in this. Like, there's this part where a guy starts hallucinating about a worm smoking a bong. That's actually Freddy, and then Freddy is pretending that he's just on some sort of trip, and then sort of possesses him, like how he possesses people in the second movie, and he fights off Jason as him, because he has to, fight Jason, and Jason's not really sleeping. The movie was good, I think. Then, of course, they remade the Freddy Krueger movie, because every scary movie has to get a remake. People really talk bad about most scary movie remakes. I mean, I think like half of them are bad and like half of them are good. This was a good one in my opinion. A lot of people really like to crap on this one. Like I said before, I don't think there's any bad Freddy Krueger movies. Like, they're all good in my opinion. This one I thought was good. They tried to make Freddy Krueger look more like a burn victim in this one, which I think was pretty neat. They didn't just go with the same look at that he already had. They tried actually making him look more realistic in the way he was burned, instead of making him look like a melted pizza or a wrinkled old man, which is basically how he looked in all the other ones. The actor they chose was pretty good. They got the guy who played as Rorschach and Watchmen. I think that's pretty cool. There's a lot of... The characters are just a lot more boring in this one. They don't have as good actors. There was one thing that I really thought was cool. Nancy paints in this one. I want to see more of Nancy painting, because Nancy's paintings are great. Nancy paints paintings, and those paintings are really cool, and she uses paint, because I like paint, and painting is painting, and I like painting, and she likes painting, and painting is painting, so painting's pretty cool. She likes to paint. Who else wants to see her paint more? Paints all over painting, and just paint canvases and paint, and there's just paint and paper, paint. She just paints.